Hey everybody, good morning out there on Zoom and Facebook and wherever you are in the world. Good morning right here in the room. Ooh, we're gonna have some fun today. My name is Tracy Brown, if you have not met me before, and it is 9:15-ish Central Time. That means here at CSLDallas, it is time for us to dive into the science of mind with our Sunday morning Science of Mind class. And for anyone who is visiting us for the first time, or you just found us live or by recording, what we do in this Sunday morning class is we open the Science of Mind textbook and we simply go through it from beginning to almost the end. And we just go paragraph by paragraph, page by page, and it generally takes us about 3.5 years to do it. So where are we starting today? We are starting on page 147, near the bottom, with the section that is titled Understanding. Now, this is the last subsection in chapter 8. And chapter 8 is focused on the power of thought. And the power of thought has been all about laying the foundation for spiritual mind healing. What is the basis for mental healing? Some of the subsections have been activity of the one mind, it is done unto us, and just laying foundational brick after foundational brick for us to understand and then use in a deliberate way the power of thought. So we're at the end of the chapter, and we're going to dive in, and I'm going to read part of it. We'll talk about it. But as I'm reading and sharing, I want you to think about two things. Number one, how have you used this in your life? How has it shown up? Number two, what are your questions? Like, Tracy, when you said this, it made no sense whatsoever. Can you explain it to me? So those two things as we go through, how has it applied in your life? And two, what questions you have or where it's confusing, because earnest tone sometimes confuses people. So understanding on page 147 at the bottom. Before we attempt to improve our conditions, before we proceed further on the subject of healing, it is necessary that we be certain in our own minds that thought is creative. As upon this basis, our entire superstructure rests. Okay, I'm not even going to get past that first part without stopping. Thought is creative. Thought is the technology that is used in order to create a change in outcome, a change in condition. It is our thoughts and how we use them that actually results in a change in condition, and we are influencing the conditions in our lives. So before we seek to improve our conditions, page 147, first sentence under understanding, before we even attempt to improve our conditions, we have to be clear in our own minds that our thoughts are creating. Okay, now I'm going to go to the next sentence. Since spirit creates by contemplation, purely mental action, then everything in the manifest world is some effect of its thought. Our own minds are an expression of the divine mind, so they must be of the same essence, right? So a lot of times You'll hear me in treatment or in prayer making the connection between this invisible, all-powerful, all-knowing creator of all life as the spiritual DNA, just like my biological parents have provided me with biological DNA, genetic DNA. Yeah, I did hear that. I did say that. Okay, erase, delete. You didn't hear it. So, but the DNA that we are so familiar with genetically and biologically, if we sometimes can think of, even though it's not, exactly true, but to help our brains get around how that which is true for God, that which is true for the Creator, because it created us in its own spiritual image and likeness, it's like that spiritual DNA is also already within me. So, again, as Ernest Holmes writes, since spirit creates by contemplation purely mental action, then everything in the manifest world is an effect of its thought. Our own minds are an expression of the divine mind. And so our own mind must be the same, must do the same thing. Next paragraph. That we find ourselves in an undesirable condition in the face of all of this is merely proof that we have limited ourselves by our very freedom. Shall we not then reverse our thinking and take for our starting point the inherent nature of mental powers? The inherent nature of mental powers. This is the foundation for that quip, cute little, easy to talk about phrase, change your thinking, change your life. I'm hoping you at home also finished the sentence, because we hear that so much, change your thinking, change your life. Well, there's a lot between those two phrases, change your thinking, change your life, but it starts with changing your thinking, changing what it is that you desire, that you choose, so that you can begin moving toward it. Because your life is the effect of the dominant thoughts you have, the frequency with which you think them, and the beliefs you have that drive your behavior. So that second paragraph on page 148, just repeating it, that we find ourselves in an undesirable condition in the face of all this is merely proof that we have limited ourselves by our very freedom. Freedom. We have freedom to choose. We have freedom to experience every human life, every way that we engage in life. And so we may make some choices, or we may find ourselves in situations or conditions where it's not what we want to experience. And so we have the freedom to do that. And then we have the freedom to choose again, and to choose differently, and to begin moving in a different direction. Next paragraph. We have gone far in the right direction when we have determined that creation could have originated only in intelligence, and when we have realized further that our own mental power must be the same in kind with the creative nature of God. Thus we begin to sense, even though dimly, that as our minds become more like the divine mind, we shall expand into a greater livingness, our world created by our consciousness, and our consciousness taking its color from the perception of our relation to the infinite. It's a lot of words in that paragraph. And it's not all that complicated. We will have, just kind of paraphrasing this paragraph, second from the last paragraph, we will have gone far in the right direction. So we're moving in the right direction once we truly understand and believe that there is an infinite intelligence, and our own mental power must be like that intelligence, because that's the intelligence that created us, and we are right back in that place of the spiritual DNA. The intelligence that created me planted its intelligence in me. I have access to it. I can use it, and my mind works in the same way that its mind works, and I have access to create the life that I want, because in italics at the end of the paragraph, if you're following along in the book, our world created by our consciousness, and our consciousness is taking its direction or its formation from the fact that I know I'm related to the infinite consciousness. Anybody's mind just blown, like, wow. So because we only have one more paragraph in this section, I'm going to read that. Then we're going to go to hear what you are thinking about all of this. Last paragraph on page 148. We should strive toward a perfect vision, a perfect conception. We should expand our thought until it realizes all good, and then cut right through all that appears to be and use this almighty power for definite purposes. We should daily feel a deeper union with capital L life, a greater sense of that indwelling God, the God of the seen and of the unseen that is already within us. When we speak into or through this mind, we have sown a seed of thought into the absolute, and we may rest in peace. We need not make haste, for it is done unto us as we believe. In that day they call upon me, I will answer. Period. End of paragraph, end of section, end of chapter on the power of thought. And what a great way to end, reminding us that it is our understanding of the power and the nature of this mental capacity that we have. The biggest challenge that comes up for most people is they confuse mental thought and intelligence with what we in the human experience have labeled IQ and smartness. And so as we're talking about this, and I think both Dr. Petra and I have reminded you several times as we've gone through this chapter 8 that we're talking about the consciousness, and we're not talking about you can go take a test and, get an A on it in a history class or in a biology class because of that. This intelligence is about the creative power and how we use our thinking and our mind in order to influence the way that our lives are experienced. So, understanding, let's hear what it's doing for you. What are you thinking about this section? What questions do you have? And Ryan, good morning.
Well, good morning to you, Dr. Tracy Brown. And first and foremost, I've got to say for everybody online, her dress has pockets. This just boggles my mind. I just love your wardrobe. So with that being said, out of the way, impulsive thoughts. Welcome to everybody here in the room. Hi, how you doing? Thank you for waving. Makes me feel seen and heard back over here in my dark corner. And for all of those online all around the world, hello and hola. I see we have a split here, which is really fascinating to me. You guys might not know, but we have a married couple in our audience, one who's online in Mexico and one who's in the room with us today. Isn't that amazing how technology brings us all together like that? So, if your mind is blown just like mine about this chapter, we want to hear from you. And for those who are here in the room, feel free to raise your hand, and the microphone will get passed around to you. For those who are with us via Zoom, go ahead and hit the raise your hand icon located down below, and we'll bring you into the room. And for all the fun folks all around the world, make sure to check in where you're watching us from today here on Facebook Live, and also put your questions and comments into the chat as well, and I can bring that into the room. And for those who are putting their questions in the chat on Facebook and on Zoom, just know that we keep those anonymous so that way we can continue to have a safe container for spiritual growth. So with that being said, just polling here, anybody in the audience like to comment or share? Okay, we've got someone here. Go ahead and just say your name and let's hear from you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Brian. Good morning. So yes, indeed, thought is creative, and you asked how have we been using this in our life, and then if we had any questions. I think I've been using this so well for so long that it's almost like I see the future, and so this thought is creating something in the future, and then that something arrives. So then I get lazy. And I allow so many other thoughts, and I don't continue to create what I want. Wednesday night we talked about in meditation radical responsibility. And I think this is something that I need to work on a little bit. I'm pretty good at radical acceptance and radical gratitude. So I'm going to leave it at that for now.
Radical acceptance and radical gratitude. Yes, it would be very much enhanced by some radical responsibility. That I take responsibility for what is being created in my life. I take responsibility not as a burden, which often when we hear the word responsibility, it feels like I've got to do something I don't really want to do, but I'm adulting here. But radical responsibility in the context of, I love the way you phrased it, that, Brian, if I'm conscious or if I'm intentional about the direction I am going and what I want to see in my life, it does leave less room for random things to simply occur. On the other side, I always want to mention when we talk about radical responsibility or responsibility at all for creating our lives, that everything that happens to us is not a direct reflection of our own individual thoughts. But that's all the more reason why we must take responsibility for our individual thoughts, because we're also affected. And if you've been around me a little while, you know that for these purposes verbally, I often will say affected and effected, because if I just say affected, they sound the same. So what often happens is we are affected by the collective consciousness, what has been created in society. So we're affected by the polarity that's going on in the larger society, because it involves so many people and creates the environment, the umbrella environment. I'm not I'm not praying for polarity, right? I'm not saying, hey, bring on some polarity and anger, and come on, bring it. But enough people are that I am living in that environment. So it, to your point, Brian, makes it even more important for me to be responsible for what I am putting in. What's the order I'm placing in the restaurant of life? So I love that.
We're going to go back here into the room to Nicole, who's steady reading the book. Hey, Nicole.
Yes, I was getting my facts straight. This particular chapter makes me think of a paragraph in Faust where they explain that in the beginning, God said, let there be light, and there was light. And so people say that light was the first thing that was created. But he argues that in the beginning, God spoke, God said. So first there was the Word. There was the Word before there was anything else. Before there was light and dark, there was the Word. And before the Word comes the thought. So in the beginning, in the very beginning, what the Bible is really saying is there was thought. It started with thought. So I just wanted to share that
Just
really
a little
interesting
tip
little
from the newly named Reverend Nicole.
You like to play with me like that, Tracy. So, but I wanted to bring this, let's make this about myself. I improved my circumstance just yesterday. I attempted to improve my conditions. I went in for a new phone plan. I found out you get internet and you get a free phone. Well, I don't need internet. I don't use internet, but I really need a phone. So I thought about it as I'm getting a phone and I'm getting free internet. I can use free internet. That's fine. When I went to get my phone, they couldn't get the SIM card to work in my old phone. I was just going to use my old phone from 2021. We're in 2025 now, and it wouldn't work. And they couldn't come up with any explanation for why it wouldn't work. So I just took that as a sign. Okay, it's time to get a new phone. And right now, my entire goal is to stop with this lie I tell myself that I can't afford it. And the way it holds me back and the way it keeps my quality of life in the gutter where I was born. But I can. And I've never regretted getting a new phone. In 15 years, I've never gotten a new phone and then stepped back and said, wow, I really couldn't afford that. I don't know what I'm going to do now. Or wow, I don't like this new piece of technology. This hasn't improved my quality of life at all. That's not how that story has ever gone. And it's not how it'll go today.
Yes, that is not how it will go today. And what a great example of both pieces of that. Number one, remembering that in almost all of the mystical traditions, and that includes the mystical level of Christianity and the Bible, almost all of them teach the same thing, that our thoughts are the foundation for what ultimately happens in our lives, or how we evaluate or describe the experience that we have in our life. And on the surface, there are often a lot of rules. There's the dogma, and there's, oh, you must do this, you must do that. But if you go to the mystics in every tradition, it comes back to that. So thank you for making that connection in the Bible, because a lot of people don't see it. They see light, and it's like, light, that's it, that's first, yay. And then to the application of, yes, I think it's so fabulous when we recognize we've been telling ourselves a story and living based on that belief, even when we haven't been consciously affirming it. But if we've been affirming it for decades, it's going to keep showing up until we replace it with a new thought like, oh, just like every time before, I expect to love this phone. Just like every time before, I am going to learn some new things and have access to new technology. Just like before, I paid my phone bill. And instead of the subconscious in the back of the mind, I can't afford a new phone. Okay, the universe will just say yes. I can't afford a new phone. Oh, you're going to have a lot of other bills that make you not able to afford that phone that don't have to happen. If you would just say, I can afford this phone. So great example. Thank you so much. Let's go online.
All right. Nita, do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and join us?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning, Anita.
I absolutely love that last paragraph you read because where it talked about it is an indwelling presence.
Yes,
And if they but call on me, I will answer. And talk about some power, because, my Judeo-Christian heritage always said, there's this guy out there in the sky somewhere, right? And now to have the full understanding that when I court that presence, it's an indwelling presence within me that I can never be separated from. And every time that I consciously recognize that indwelling presence and call upon it, it will answer. So when I change my thinking, I change my life, because now I set that intention. I set that I want to experience this. And when I fully embed myself in that, it will answer.
Yes, yes. And yes again. It is really simple, even though Ernest Holmes uses a lot of words. A lot of words. When you break it down. And in this that you've highlighted, Anita, obviously it is a quote of biblical scripture, which Ernest Holmes does. You can't go 10 pages in the textbook without seeing Ernest Holmes refer to the Bible or to Jesus or to write the lesson from it. And because we engage with it on a metaphysical level versus a literal level, it is such a great and rich reminder. So I too love that he ended this chapter on the power of thought with the reminder of the, we quote a lot, if you believe it, you can achieve it, right? Whatever you believe, so whatever you ask, it will be delivered. But in that day they call upon me, I will answer. That assuredness. And Anita, thank you for linking, Ernest Holmes does it, but for reinforcing the link between one of our declaration of principles in Science of Mind is the highest God and the innermost God are the same God. So if we go back to our own declaration of foundational principles, then that connection is made there as well. Great. So, checking with Ryan, do we have anybody else online?
I'm checking. I don't see anybody online. And do we have?
Yes,
Okay.
we have
somebody
room.
here in the audience. Okay, go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Jacqueline. Thank you for that enrichment. That's my breakfast for this morning. I'm new to CSL, and I want to put a pin right here in the universe, right? Thank you for giving me. The intuitiveness of me knew that there was something greater, And for such a long time as I am now, I'm going to tell my age, I'm 60 years old. I've been looking for the place where I belong. I know where my people started, no problem there, but that's not where it connected me. So to have come here by way of a dear associate friend, I am most grateful. And to go on to eat of this by purchasing this book last week, like I overwhelmed myself. I just could not sleep at night. I was turning the page like, oh my God, I knew this was here. So, but coming back to creativeness, right? That creative mind that knows what you know, in spite of not being confident of the knowledge, having not practiced it.
Yes.
Is where I am now. And I am asking of myself, of the creativity in me. And it'll go back to another biblical strength, is create in me a new heart. Well, I'm asking for the mind to join so that they both beat at the pulse of acceptance of the things that I'll go on not to understand, but learn how to accept. So help me manifest that with your feedback.
We have some church up in class today. I didn't know I was coming to this, but always ready. All right. Are you ready, Tracy? Always, right? Because it's not me, right? I can totally get out of the way. So is it Jackie or Jacqueline?
I like Jacqueline.
Jacqueline. So what an amazing encapsulation of a journey. A journey that many of us online and in the room have been on of I'm creating what works for me, and then all of a sudden I find these other crazy people who are believing some of the same things or talking about the same things. And it takes a lot to shift from what has been a foundation to a new foundation. But I don't think there's any quote unquote advice to give you because of the way you describe that. You are right there. You are right there in that place of I get to choose. And what I often say about science of mind is it teaches us how to choose and tells us or requires us to choose. So, I mean, it's a full circle right back to Brian's comment about radical responsibility, that I have the responsibility to choose as an adult. Right. So we're not talking about, the 8-year-old who is learning and being socialized into society, even though to a certain degree, some of us as children were doing this work before anybody told us about it. I can remember some choices that I made and some situations I was in when I was very young, 6 and 8, and then 13 and 15. I didn't know anything about New Thought. I didn't know anything about metaphysics. I was raised Baptist and loved it, loved the overall, even though I had questions about this and this and this and this, it gave me a great grounding. But I was making choices that now when I look back, I'm like, what? How did I know to do that? Or why did I believe this when my parents believed this? And it's now I can look back and say, oh, it was the spirit that was already within me, and my creator never was disconnected and gave me that nudge. And I was open enough, unknowingly, to listen and take a breath and go, oh yeah, this is what's right for me, not this. And do that, or choose that, or go in that direction. And so those are sometimes I wish I could go back to those times where I didn't have to think through everything and I could just follow that inner guidance. So at this stage, it's explore. One of the great things about science of mind is that it is designed around this idea that all paths lead to God. All paths lead to God. And there are constant reminders that it's not a mistake. So there have been no mistakes. Anita's laughing right now because I can't see her because she's not in the room, but I know she's online because she spoke. And so every time I quote page 290, paragraph 2, I hear her voice because she's the one who drilled it into me. That there are no mistakes, there never have been, there never can be in God, because there's nothing outside of God. And God has the infinite intelligence to know, okay, well, Jacqueline moved here. She went this direction. Yeah, she's going to come back over here. I don't have to worry about that, right? And so just keep exploring and ask lots of questions. Lots of questions. Whether it's in the Sunday morning class where we're going through in sequence, or whether it is going on the CSLDallas website and connecting with a practitioner and saying, you know, can I have a 1-hour practitioner session with you just for you to explain, you know, I'm reading chapter 3 and I'm getting really confused, because our practitioners and our spiritual coaches are there to also teach and to help you learn. And so that's an option. And then also just reaching out to other people. So Jacqueline, you're new, but for people who've taken 2-3 classes or more, then you have people you were in class with who you can also say, hey, I'm needing to bounce this off of somebody. Can we talk about the Declaration of Principles or the Global Vision and what it says? Because I'm trying to apply it. So we have each other. We have each other. None of us has to do this alone and say, I'm reading this and I'm reading Ernest Holmes, and so I have to figure it out. No, we have each other. Okay, any other questions or comments?
Yeah, it looks like Carmen. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Carmen. So in my journey, what I'm realizing is things I asked in the past that I'm actually living in, like I'm in the present, like I'm actually living in it now. And I don't know if anyone knew, anyways. So I got divorced about 4 years ago. And when I got divorced, I lost a lot of my family because it was his side of the family. And so I was alone. And one of the things I wanted to rebuild my community. I went out seeking to trying to find, I went to churches, I went everywhere. I was like, I was going to commit myself to it. And so recently I realized I'm actually sitting what I asked for as of today, right now, in the midst of everything. And what made me realize that is because one of my dear friends called me up last week and said it was her birthday. And she asked me, was I available to go to her birthday? And I met that friend here at CSLDallas. And it made me realize how I am important to someone, and someone's important to me. And so anyway, so I came out seeking a community, and I've been at CSLDallas about 3.5 years. So like maybe 6 months or so after my divorce, I came here. And I've been here ever since. And I'm connected with everybody, and I even have friends that I met here that we meet outside of CSLDallas. And so that's what I asked for and I wanted, and I'm actually living it now. So I just wanted to say, like what Nicole was saying about and you know today about the thought and asking, and what Anita said, that whatever we ask for, it comes, and I truly believe that, because a lot of the stuff that I asked years ago, I'm actually living it today. So I wanted to say that.
So I'm laughing because I'm so glad you can see that,
Right?
and that you are sharing it, because
Yeah.
so I didn't know that when you came here you had recently gone through a divorce, but you were a mess. Now, for all of you, I can say that.
Yes, you can.
I
That's
would
Tracy.
say that
Yes.
about it.
You're one of them too that I connect with. CSLDallas.
And so it's a testimony, right? It's a testimony in that we didn't know what you were looking for, but you kept coming and you kept saying, I'm looking for this. And you kept asking questions, and they were really good questions, right? And to see you now, it is like that was night and this is day. And, after a few months, and then there was an opening, and you applied for the job and got on staff, and then you're here almost every day, right? That's another way, Jacqueline, like you could join the staff, and you could be here every day, and it would just like seep in, right? But it really is so meaningful, and it really is so heartwarming for me to hear you say that, because all of us, right? We plant a seed in the soil of our environment, and then we just keep moving forward, and then the seed breaks through the ground, and then it blossoms into whatever that seed was. You planted a seed to have community, and you have it. And there was somebody in the back of the room who was applauding too. So,
Yes.
And so it is such a beautiful way to express. And to take it back to the chapter, the whole chapter is about the power of thought. And it's taken us months to go through this chapter. It's one of the longer chapters. And I can't encourage you enough to go back and read it if you are still not quite sure about how impactful the thoughts you have can be in creating the life you desire. Ryan?
Yes, as we're closing out today, one important note on that too, Carmen, is that we have a whole virtual community that's happening all around the world. And as some of those members have been coming together every single Wednesday for our steering committee, we've planned events for the online community to get together so that they can start to build relationships. And Bobby, who's on the Zoom here with us, she's been posting here in the chat, as well as I've been posting in the Facebook as well too, that you can join us after this Science of Mind class, so that way you can continue to build an online community and share in those relationships. But we also have a very special day today, Tracy, and I forgot to tell everybody, May the 4th be with you. All right, we got a couple hooting and hollering in the audience. And we have a very special guest here today who's going to be talking all about the way of the Jedi, and that's Dr. Krista Noble. And
Yes.
she's also going to be having a workshop afterwards as well too. So I invite you to stick around for all of the fun and festivities for that. And then next week, we have an amazing artist / speaker / global phenomenon known as Cynthia James. And if you guys aren't familiar with her, make sure to head on over to your websites. We've got some links to her website. And she's just come out with a new book Are you familiar with the new book?
It's fabulous.
Yes, that's right. And she's going to be here next week joining us to talk a little bit about her new book. All of the information from it also culminates into a workshop afterwards. And if you guys are interested in it, because I know you are, there's a handout that you can scan the QR code and get some information for here in person, as well as I posted those links inside of the chat as well, too. So I just wanted to share that information with you guys.
Always good stuff going on at CSLDallas, and please join us in 25 minutes or so for our Sunday celebration service, whether you are here on campus or whether you are online. And if you're not able to join us there, we'll look for you at other events online and in person throughout the week and next Sunday. Have a great Sunday, the rest of the day, everybody.